All right, welcome back to episode 9 of the More Smarter Show, where we sat down with Jake's wife, Meg.
So we spoke to Megan about her journey through entrepreneurship, starting when she got her real estate license 9 years ago, into starting new businesses and title sales, et cetera, et cetera.
Enjoy. All right, so we're here with Megan Handler, and if you aren't familiar with that, that's also Jake's last name.
Yeah,
so
we're related.
I think you're related, but you're also married, so I don't know which one
married.
came first. But
You don't want to know.
Yeah. But sweet, yeah. So Meg is also full-time in real estate world, and just like Jake and I, but she also works more smarter, and that's why we wanted to have her on, because she's not only a realtor, but she owns other businesses that revolve around real estate. And I just want to learn a little bit more about how you started that kind of journey.
And before we get into that, this episode is sponsored by Foundation Title, where Meg also works.
Yes.
So
that
go
is
ahead.
one of the many things that I do within the real estate world. So, I mean, Dylan, you did a good job of kind of explaining it.
Okay.
All right. I'm being nice. Listen.
That's nice.
This is on camera. Off camera, it's a different feedback.
Yeah.
No, but he did a pretty good job of explaining it. I am a full-time real estate agent, but I also have a couple other things that I do. So I have a company called Next Management, and we basically help realtors with a lot of their back-end work with paperwork and managing timelines, things like that. So it's a transaction coordination company for those who might be familiar. So we have that, and I also am full-time into title insurance, where I'm a salesperson for Foundation Title, which is where we are today, actually. And all those things together kind of help me do other things that I'm working on. So we invest in real estate. I'm also working on building out a course. So just constantly doing a bunch of things all within that real estate umbrella.
Amazing. Are you going to be one of those people buy my course?
100%.
Link in bio.
Yes.
100%.
It's niche enough.
Yes, and there's just so much time and effort put into this that I will be very proud of it when it's done, and I'm going to want to share it with the world.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
So a lot of hats you wear within real estate, like me, and we partner on a lot of things you mentioned, which helps us both. Let's talk about Next Management, because you're the sole owner of that. Like, you just started that from scratch. So why don't you talk about what led you to starting that company and how that happened?
Yeah, so I started that company in June of 2021. It's actually almost our 4th birthday. So that's pretty cool. But prior to that...
do I got to know that date? And we got to have flowers
I'm
or
not
something?
going to tell you the date. You need to figure it out.
Damn it.
Just kidding. It's the 30th. Anyway, so I'm expecting flowers. And basically the way that I started this company is, prior to that, I worked with a real estate team, and within the brokerage that I was working with, I was kind of known as the person that could have the answers to anything. So when people had questions about things going on in their deals, or just even organization, administrative, business building things, I kind of had the reputation of someone that could help them with those things. So I constantly had agents reaching out to me for help, and I identified that there is a market for agents who need help with some of this work overflow, especially high-producing agents who are in front of clients all day, every day, and don't necessarily have time to sit behind a computer and do some of the other important parts of a real estate transaction. So I identified a need in the market, and I kind of just built systems around that. It was just me. I was working directly with the agents, and I quickly realized that was not sustainable. So I brought in some part-time help, and that has now graduated to me having 2 full-time employees plus 1 part-time employee.
So you do paperwork. Your company does paperwork for real estate agents.
That's a simplified
version. So if you're
version,
a real
but yes.
estate agent, the value add that you bring for Next Management is you can just go sell houses. You don't even need to know what a contract looks like, because we got that covered.
We have paperwork covered. We're also just helping with managing timelines and other back-end administrative tasks. So pretty much everything that involves being in front of a computer, we will help the realtor with, and the realtor can just go sell houses.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I've used, and Jake has also used her company, and it is very beneficial to have that. I have asked multiple questions.
You asked today.
Yeah.
When I walked into this, not on camera, you said, where's the listing agreement? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know either.
Yeah, exactly.
And then he texted me, and I was like, I'll email it to you in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, that just goes to show, though, how beneficial it is because
Yeah,
I
we
can
don't
just
even
go
know.
get a listing signed. Well, I can't get it actually signed if I don't have the paperwork, but I can go get a listing without having to worry about all the minutia, small stuff. So,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's obviously the value add. Now, going into the more smarter concept of this is you were doing it by yourself and you realized that you couldn't scale. with that.
Exactly.
So it was
So
like a job.
It was
sounds
almost
like.
it was almost a job. You were getting paid per thing that you were doing, per transaction. So at what point, like, talk to me about the time frame that you kind of were going through. Like, how long were you doing it by yourself till you realized, like, oh gosh, this is not work.
Yeah, so I probably did it for about a year, almost a year and a half by myself. But during that year, I was very intentional. So because I had experience doing this for a real estate team in the past, I understood that in order to graduate from the position of doing it yourself, that you needed systems and processes in place. So while I was growing the business and working directly with the agents, I was also very intentional about documenting what I was doing. So during that time, I was making email templates for literally everything I had to do. I was writing out what the process is on a listing or on a contract to close deal or a rental or whatever it was that we were doing. So that way, one day I knew that when I wasn't the person doing it, part of my brain was there. It was already going to be documented how I expected things to go. So that it was about a year and a half of doing all of that.
Wow. Okay.
So it sounds intentional, like you said. So it wasn't like, oh, it was so overwhelming as an employee of my own business, but it was like, okay, I see the 2-year vision here that I'm going to be an employee for only this amount of time of my own business, but I'm also going to create systems for when I'm past that.
Exactly.
So
go on.
not to cut you off, but let's say in a hypothetical world, there wasn't the route of being able to hire out people and like you had to do it all on your own. Is this something that you would even consider continuing or like because you saw that you could scale it to be something bigger than it was?
I think I knew going into this that it's not something that I could sustain for a long time. I know how intense this business is, and especially doing it at the scale in which I envisioned being able to do it. I just knew that there was no way that I could possibly balance my work life and my professional life while being the person inside every single deal. At this point, I don't think it's physically possible for one person to manage it. Like I said, I have basically 2.5 people, 2 full-time and 1 part-time. And still, we probably need to hire another person soon.
Wow.
Do you know of any other companies like yours? I personally don't. I know a lot of people like maybe a real estate team will hire a transaction coordinator to be their team's TC.
Yep.
And then another team will do that to a different person. But you are now across different people and teams because you're a company.
Yeah.
Do you know any other companies doing that? I mean, there's maybe a couple.
There's a couple, but
Okay.
it's definitely not as popular or as common as I think some people who aren't in the real estate industry might think.
Yeah.
And that's partially why I started this company, because so many realtors that I knew personally needed help with these things, and they really had nowhere to go, especially if they were at the point where they were busy enough that they can't do it all by themselves, but not busy enough to have the overhead of a full-time employee that can, be specific to their business. I knew that having a model where people could pay for my services at closing and we're just as incentivized to get this to close as the agent is, I knew that there was a lot of power behind that type of business.
Yeah, because for a team to hire a TC, they're going to be a salaried employee likely, right?
Exactly.
So you're incentivized for this deal to close.
Yeah.
The same way the realtor is.
Exactly. Like, we want this to close just as much as the agent does, and
Yeah.
we're not getting paid if the agent doesn't get paid.
Yeah.
So we really see it as like a partnership. We're not just their employee, we're a part of their team.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And then especially too, when that is the case, like you're also going to have agents that can afford it too. It's not even like the question of like if you obviously it's whatever you charge per deal, but it's like a
You're
referral.
dealing with people that are or advance in the industry.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's not just that. I mean, this works for anyone in the industry if you think about it. Even if you're a brand new agent and let's say this is your first deal and you honestly just like don't know how to navigate a real estate transaction, having our team where you're going to pay at closing, you don't have this overhead cost as a new agent where, you know, you have to pay someone and you're not getting paid. Having that to also like just help navigate the deal and kind of be the brains behind it is beneficial for a newbie. It's also beneficial for someone who's closing hundreds of deals a year because, you know, it's per diem. We're all doing better together.
Yeah, got it. So you created this great business model, and obviously the service is great too. At this point now, how do you scale this business? Like, I guess let's date back 2 years, you finally hired your first person part-time. Okay, now you need to get more people to pay. You need to get more jobs in order to pay for this person. What's the scaling process from 2 years back to compared to now?
That is a great question. So, I mean, I guess my vision from this point on is that now that I'm not actively working in the business, I can really focus on sales. But one thing that I'm very careful about is making sure that I'm not overstressing my team and then compromising the quality of our services. So just like having regular check-ins with my team to see what their bandwidth is and how much more they can take on before hiring another person or bringing on a new agent. So just really keeping a temperature on that. But yeah, my focus now is really just like building out each division even further. So I've broken up the business into the listing division and the contract to close division, and just really making sure that both of those, as we scale, have great systems. I think the next hire for me is bringing in someone to do like the accounting and bookkeeping aspect of it. So really just making sure that like even the parts of the business that people don't see, that those are all structured well, that, you know, everything flows properly.
So you're also freeing up time to do your other jobs,
Exactly.
careers, businesses, whatever you want to call it, right? Like foundation sales,
Exactly.
title sales, and realtor sales.
Yeah, I honestly, I've had my title license for a couple of years now, but I wasn't using it the way that I'm using it now. Like now I'm, you know, really actively working as a salesperson, whereas in the past it was kind of passive. But that's because I didn't have the time or the resources to do the sales at that time. Same thing with real estate. I feel like I kind of took a step back from all of the other things that I'm now working on, just so I could get this business to the point where we're at today.
Yeah, that's awesome. And before we go to other avenues that you're kind of a part of, with Next Management, you are strictly a real estate agent transaction coordinator.
Yes.
Is there any thought towards changing that, or maybe not changing, but keeping that and then making different branches? Like we were talking about construction, like helping a solo construction person with every single email to their clients and throughout every single deal, and other professionals, I guess, like that.
Yeah, I mean, I, at this point, don't want to branch out of what I feel like I know best, which is real estate. I think if anything, if there were any considerations for going into another avenue of business, it would be partnering with someone who maybe excels at marketing, because that's one thing agents will ask me for. Like, hey, I need help with flyers or, you know, social media posts, whatever. So I think that would be a potential partnership, but I don't personally want to build out that business.
Yeah.
But I am open to partnerships with like-minded businesses within the real estate industry to just better service my clients and, you know, provide them with more resources.
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me of last episode where we were talking about Jake's property management company, that you focus on the niche that you're good at and that you want to be good at. So making sure that that's a priority.
And now you're building a course.
I am. So pretty much all of what I just explained over the past couple of years that I have worked on and built out this business doing, I am now creating a course on how to do that yourself. So
who's the target?
The target would be real estate teams, real estate brokerages, or anyone who's like making a real estate team. So whether you have a team, you want to have a team, or maybe a bigger scale like a brokerage that has an in-house transaction service, those are my target.
That's because high volume transactions.
So those are your targets for the course, meaning those people are going to buy this course to train their transaction coordinator?
It's more than just train their transaction coordinator. The course is actually 3 parts. So, and they're going to be available individually or as a bundle package. But the
Nice.
first part is building out your TC systems. So understanding how to document everything, how to create templates, how to, write out what your process is, and pretty much filling in every blank. So that's step 1. Then step 2, I go into hiring. So really understanding the pros and cons of local talent versus virtual assistants or like offshore talent, figuring out the best ways to hire them, some tips and tricks that I've done with hiring and how I've had success with hiring. And then the last part is training. So that's explaining the onboarding process. I call it train and maintain because training is one thing, but retention is the most important thing. You don't want to have constant turnover with this kind of staff. So that's what I dive into in part 3.
But if you do have constant turnover, because I imagine that there might be naturally with this business, like if you're hiring a transaction coordinator, they're probably not staying for 40 years. I don't know, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. But if
it
they
depends.
do, they can use your course for the next person.
Exactly.
It's a one-time purchase of your course, basically.
Exactly. The one-time purchase,
Small
especially
monthly fee too.
well, if you need additional consulting and
Yeah.
coaching, that's your additional fee.
There we go.
But essentially, if you purchase this 3-part series or course, whatever it is, it'll teach you how to build out your systems in a way so if you do have turnover, it's kind of just plug and play with your next employee. So
That's a huge value,
Yeah.
I think. So there's not a human that has to train or maintain or do any of that part because your course will teach that person how to do it.
for the most part, I mean, I
Yeah.
do think that there still needs to be some human element to this. I think it's important to have a weekly call with my employees and just see what challenges they're running into and things like that.
Yeah, yeah.
But outside of, offering
The startup, because
yeah.
I mean, we've hired people through our management company, and I know that the tough part about the hiring process is that first like month of being an employee.
Exactly.
Because you're balancing, do you have a lot, like too much for them or too little for them? Are you just paying them to just sit there? Because sometimes it really doesn't accumulate until later on.
Exactly.
So it sounds like this solves that problem.
Yeah, so the first 30 days are a big deep dive
Yeah,
that we
yeah.
go into because that's really where you're either setting yourself up for success or failure here. And I would say that during those first 30 days, you should have someone within your team or brokerage or whatever it is for this specific course that is manning this new hire. So that is
makes
helping
sense.
set them up for success. And that's going to require some daily check-ins and training, et cetera. But also utilizing resources that can just be repeatable. So like, for example, one of the things that my company uses is Dotloop. We use it for e-signatures, and Dotloop has so much exceptional training available on their YouTube channel. So I'm leveraging that. So I'm also trying to teach business owners how to work smarter and not have more smarter and not recreate the wheel every time, where every time Dotloop updates their system, you have to make a new video. Like we don't want to do that. So that's part of what I'm utilizing in this course.
How'd you come up with the name Next Management? I know the answer. That's why I want you to tell the story real quick.
Do I? Oh,
I don't even
forgot.
know this.
You wouldn't. You're too young.
You
probably.
wouldn't understand this, but for the listeners, we were watching Next on MTV.
Okay, I don't know.
I know you don't know it.
But yeah, they were on the Next bus. It was
show,
great.
Yeah, and yeah.
And I don't know, we were just like, Next Management. Like, that was
literally.
it.
We were watching old episodes on YouTube.
That's
Yep.
funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great name.
Yep, there was.
Yeah, it was gonna be parental control management, but I think Next Management was a
Yeah.
little bit.
I might have
Room
had
Raiders.
some questions.
Room Raiders management.
Tila Tequila Management. No. Yeah, not a lot of thought behind that.
Yeah, figure it worked, right?
Okay.
Hey, I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah, it does. It does flow
Yeah,
well.
you got your next deal, you got your
Yeah.
next business venture, you got
Yeah.
your next date.
It was called Manage with Meg at first, but then you were like,
Yeah, so
not scalable.
that first like year and a half, it was Manage with Meg, and then I was like, I don't want people to think they're getting Meg every time that they're doing this.
Yeah.
So I decided to remove myself from the name and also just like treat this more like a business and, like I say, not just a girl behind a computer.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Wow. It's awesome.
Multiple girls behind a computer.
Now it's so many girls behind the computer, but it's not Meg behind the computer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so now let's go to title.
Yes.
Switch to title a little bit. We're here in your office right now. This is Foundation Title's office.
Yep.
And so just diving a little deeper into that. Like, I feel like, I mean, we talked to Frank about this too, that title is, I guess, a boring industry.
It is very boring.
Yeah.
But it's transaction management's boring too. I like boring businesses. I think that's kind of not like the hot, sexy thing that people want to go after, but there's still money to be made in those boring businesses.
Yeah.
So I'm a big fan. But yeah, so for title insurance, my mom has actually been working as a title examiner for 40 years, like way more than I've been alive. And it's always just like been something I've known because of that. Like I would go to her office when I was a kid. And then during like the major refi boom in like 2021 when rates were really low, she came home one day and she was like, you need to get your title license. You need to start doing closings for us. Like you need to get in this. And I was like, okay. So I wound up taking the course and all of that, got licensed, held my license with that title company. But that's like a tiny little mom and pop shop. And honestly, it was great for me getting started because I was able to kind of learn the ropes without having, like pressure to do it. Not that there's like pressure,
Yeah,
but
you're doing other things also.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like I had my eggs in many baskets at that point.
Yeah.
But then once, like I said, once Next Management was kind of at a point where it didn't need me so much, I realized that it was time for me to actually take this a step further. So I reached out to, different attorneys and other people that I knew within the real estate industry and asked for their recommendations. And Foundation Title was just like everyone's recommendation. So I was like, all right, like clearly there's something good going on here. So one of the attorneys that we work with regularly connected me with one of the vice presidents of the company, and we had great conversations. And I just realized that this was like the place to be. So there's a lot of resources and things here. And honestly, it all connects well with Next Management, with our real estate business. It's all kind of tied in together. So realtors that use Next Management also know that I'm in title and occasionally will partner together on those types of deals. For our real estate deals, it makes a lot of sense for us to obviously use Foundation Title. And just like having someone who has their hands in all of these different things, I just have so much information that's readily available. So like, for example, you work with Next Management. If you have a question on one of your deals where we're doing title, you know that you can just like text me and I'm getting you an answer without you having to like send an email during business hours necessarily.
Yeah, exactly. And then just working with people that you can trust in the transaction too. And so with I guess Foundation Title, I'm just trying to go a little bit deeper into that. Like, what is kind of your job as Foundation Title, and how do you? I guess I don't know that much about just title work in general. But like, talk to me about how you can like get started in that and then like scale to be the best in the world.
I love that. I'm still figuring out how to be the best in the world.
Okay.
So I will have to come back on the podcast once I have that down.
Perfect. There you go.
But basically, I am a title salesperson. So I'm not necessarily the person in the background who's like putting together your closing disclosures or issuing the title insurance policy. I am pretty much the person that's connecting the consumer with the company and just making sure that everything goes according to plan. So I like to think of it as like a concierge white glove type of service. So basically, I will assist with putting the title order in. The people in the background who are in this office right now, they will do what they are best at, and that's making sure that everything is cleared, that there's not going to be any title issues on the transaction. Throughout that process, I am a point of contact for the realtor or the attorney that I'm working with. So that way, if they have questions or if they need status updates, I'm the person that's kind of the bridge between the title back office and the clients.
Yeah.
And I'm also a closer. So I will occasionally be at the closing table with the buyers, going over the title documents, explaining what everything means, notarizing everything. So that's
two different things. Closer.
Not all salespeople are closers and vice versa. But I got started doing the closings. That's how I learned the business.
Okay.
And it's honestly something I enjoy doing. Like the closing table is a great place to be. Everyone's happy for the most part.
Yeah,
And I'm clearly someone who pays attention to details with paperwork and stuff. So I like going through the documents with the people. Said no one ever except me.
No, but it connects perfectly to you.
Yeah.
I've been to a lot of closings, my own, other people's, and non-biasedly, you're the best at explaining
Sounds pretty biased.
boring
to me.
shit.
Can we make that a clip and so I can post it on
I said at explaining boring shit, so I made it a little less nice.
Yeah.
That's fine. It is boring shit, but
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So I guess like what's the scaling from there? I know you said you reached out to like attorneys and stuff, but like how do you, I guess, get more deals as a title agent?
it's really just like networking and connecting with people. I know some people have like a more aggressive approach. Like there's people who will show up to attorneys' offices and, look for deals that way. I like a more natural approach. So I love going to networking events and just connecting with people, like following them on Instagram, becoming friends, and then being like, hey, by the way, I'm also in title sales. So like if you need something, I'm here to help you with that. I like working with people that I like. So that's kind of my approach. Obviously, like the more connecting and more networking that you do, the more business that comes your way. So that's how I approach sales.
Is it common for title salespeople to also be realtors?
Not all that common.
Not as common?
No.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's a good foot in the door then too. Like how often would you get let's say you have a seller, how often would you get the buyer to use your title?
If I'm working
if you're
with the seller?
working with the seller.
Probably not that often. Although I guess I could probably push for
it a little
that.
bit
But I
more?
also I'm not a pushy salesperson. I just don't have that in me.
Jake really is though.
No,
so.
not. But I will, when that's the situation, I do call the because it's weird for you to do it. So I will call the buyer's agent and be like, hey, by the way, if you want this to go
Especially
clean.
like in a heist and best situation where it's like, hey,
Yeah.
Well,
the
no.
leverage.
I'm not saying wet my beak. I'm just saying
I am just kidding.
this could be a smooth process, so just consider it.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like one thing that helps with the deal. Like
Yeah.
the level of communication that you're going to get is just different than when you're working with someone you don't know. I was going to say something. Oh, yeah. The good thing about me being a real estate agent and a title salesperson is that I probably understand the real estate transaction way more than your traditional title salesperson. Like
And vice versa.
Yeah, exactly. As a realtor, I understand the title end way more than other people.
Yeah.
So I just feel like I have more expertise in those fields. So if you're working with me as title Meg, like I get the real estate deal. Like you can tell me like, different hiccups and things that are going on and I'll have a great understanding of that and vice versa.
Yeah. Wow. So you're also a realtor, obviously, and you focus a lot. I think like what I've seen more recently is you guys do more deals together. Is that kind of like where you see your guys' kind of like future is in being realtors or is it kind of just as it comes?
In some capacity, it's as it comes. Like we both have deals recently where we're not working with each other and where we're working with each other.
Depends.
It's case by case.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of situations where it benefits both of us to work as a team. We both have different strengths and those just work well together.
Yeah, I jumped way ahead with that question. That was like question number 4 of this. But so go back to question number 1 here. You've been a realtor for like 7?
9 years.
9 years. Okay, so 9 years, and all this other stuff is more recent.
Yes.
So you know the real estate agent game, or at least longer than so. You got into real estate really early, just like me, like 2021.
I was 21. Yeah.
So 21. And talk to me about your journey kind of through being a realtor.
Yeah. So, I mean, I got my real estate. I dropped out of college, actually, in my last
That
semester.
whole side of the table did.
Yeah. Except I waited till my last semester. I would not recommend that. Learning that sooner than later would have been nice for student loan debt. But anyway, I dropped out of college, realized that real estate was something I was interested in, wound up getting my license, and I joined a real estate team, which I still think is a great thing to do as a new real estate agent. So I did that and quickly realized that like I didn't know shit about real estate. Like you take your test, but like I didn't know anything. So the team was like, hey, we have an opening for an admin. Like, are you interested? You kind of get paid to learn. Like you're going to be involved in every deal, but you get to do it from like an outside perspective. So I was like, totally, let's do that. So I did that, and that grew to a bigger role within the team where I was like an assistant team leader / director of operations. And then eventually an opportunity came for me to basically create my own branch of the team where I was an expansion partner. So I launched my own team in a new market, and I mean, that went very well. Like my first year I was in, I think, the top 10 in the office, and we were nationally recognized for the next 3 years within the brokerage. So that went extremely well. But yeah, I just saw that there was opportunity for me to grow a business like Next Management, for example, where I could put this work in now and not have to be there 24/7 for the rest of my life, because being a realtor is a lot of work, and running a real estate team the way that I was doing it was also a lot of work.
Yeah, wow. So when you were so you got into it and you pretty much saw that there was an avenue for, without, maybe it was subconsciously, but that there was this avenue of Next Management to create another business inside the business of being a realtor.
Yeah, like I said, it kind of happened organically. Like because of the role that I had within the real estate team that I worked with, people in the office just like knew me. They knew what I was good at. Like we were teaching like classes in the office and stuff. So like I was not a secret agent by any means. Like I was always very open to helping people learn and do better. So people would come to me all the time when they had questions or they needed something, and I would help them with that. And just through all of those interactions, I was like, there is a business to be had here. Like there are so many agents that need just that one-off help, and you can make money doing that.
So I'm surprised it took you 5 years to actually start the business, though.
Takes a while.
Yeah, I mean,
It would take you 5 years to buy a house, probably. You've been talking about it for a year.
Yeah, true.
yeah, I mean, it was a leap of faith, to be honest. Like I went from doing something that was extremely comfortable, where I knew roughly how much money I was going to make, and I knew there was some sort of stability there, to just like taking a leap of faith and trusting myself and building something that no one I knew has ever done before.
Yeah.
So it was really just like creating this blueprint without any sort of nothing to copy.
Yeah. Wow. So okay, you got 3 different avenues here where it's being very, very high producing realtor. Like you guys close a lot of deals now into a journey that you've been having with title, where you're trying to put a little bit more energy into that, and then a business that you're kind of running on the back end, where you're just focused on scaling. Where do you kind of see those 3 things in even 3 years from now?
I don't know. I mean, truthfully, a lot of this I am kind of just going day to day and figuring it out as I go. But I mean, truthfully, the way that Next Management is right now, I put like maybe an hour a day into that. Title sales, once again, I feel like I'm in the phase now where like I can go hard for title. Like I can spend a lot of my time building out this business the same way I put like so much energy and focus into Next Management for several years. Like I think now is my focus for title. So really just like building up repeat clientele and like building partnerships with people where I know that I'm their go-to person. So that's where I'm at right now. And I truly think that after a couple years of that like intense focus, that's going to be something that I can probably dedicate like an hour a day to, or something like that, where it doesn't need to be all day, every day, giving it everything I got. Yeah. So like I kind of do that in phases in my life. So like we said before, like those first 4 to 5 years, I was all focused on real estate, just like building my real estate business, learning real estate, mastering that. Then I was able to move on to Next Management. Spent a couple years doing the same exact thing, building that out, mastering that. So now I feel like this is where I am, and I'm hoping that in a couple of years, all those 3 things will work in harmony. And
yeah, exactly. But
they all feed into each other.
That's working more smarter, because it's part of working more smarter is acknowledging that you have to work more harder in the beginning.
For sure.
You know, like we started this podcast on my couch, and now we're
First
able to work
13 episodes, and and now.
Yeah, and then
The
he
camera
would
kept
fucking,
dying, and
I was gonna say, and then he would stay over for hours after,
Yeah.
and leave all the equipment upstairs in my office.
Yeah.
you know,
Still there.
You know,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. We're gonna leave it there.
Damn,
for a
first
little
F bomb on that slip. That's a slip.
I'm glad that's my episode. So pumped.
bit. I don't think that matters. It
Yeah,
doesn't
no.
matter.
So yes, working more smarter first sometimes needs to be working more harder.
For sure.
And you're a pretty good example of that for all your things you're doing.
Yeah, I think that to earn the right to work more smarter, you need intense focus to get there. So you need to just like be obsessed with the thing that you're working on and make it bulletproof, have systems, who have all the things in place. So then when you take a step back, things just keep going and you're like, oh, okay, like I worked hard. Now I can
Yeah.
do other things.
Totally. I actually love this conversation now. So the
Now, you didn't love it before.
no, I meant to say I just love this conversation, but because when you are looking at that exact thing where people, I feel like this is something that I thought too, where you definitely have to put in hard work, but do you think this is a conversation we've had multiple times? Do you think that when you have to put in a certain amount of that hard work, like you didn't have to put in, 5 years of being a realtor and like doing back end paperwork for people before starting the business, like it would have been a debate that you could probably do 3 years and start it. So like maybe it's not work as hard and just jump to learning how to work smart and learning from those other people's mistakes.
I don't know if I'm like hungry or something, but I did not understand that. Was that a question?
No, it was more of a comment.
That
But
was just,
we've talked about that before, where it's like you are instead of making that jump, where it's like, all right, I need to put my like work in the paint right now, and make the leap of faith to go out on my own or do whatever it is. It doesn't necessarily have to be a certain like time period. It's it's learning throughout the
natural.
process.
Yeah, I feel like you know when it's time. Like I think that throughout everything I've done in my career, I've led with a lot of like intuition. I'm not copying anyone on anything that I've ever done. Like I am guessing and just like hoping for the best every single day. And luckily we've gotten here. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just, like intuitively what your next steps are. And I just felt like every time I graduated to the next thing, I knew that it was that time.
Yeah. We talk about leveling up a lot. And on one of the episodes, we talked about 10 times 10 being 100, 10 times 100 being, I always make 1,000, I think. And then going on from there. And what I mean by that is doing things that are more money producing. Doing one thing that's worth $1,000 versus 10 things worth $100, for example. So it sounds like the course is something that comes to my mind of an example. Like you're trying to get a big bang there, right?
Yeah.
So from years of accumulating the tens, you're trying to get the 1,000,
Yeah.
right? And I guess in all your businesses, that's what you mean. You're leveling up.
Exactly. And like, when it's time to level up. Like when I hired my first employee for Next Management, I like couldn't afford it. Like there was like a lot of hesitation, but I also knew that I couldn't personally be the one to do everything all the time. And I knew it was time to level up. Like I was like, I've taken so many leaps of faith on myself. This is another one I have to take. And hiring that first employee allowed me to go more into sales. So I was like, oh, cool. Now I don't have to like, write the contract. Like, that was 10 times 10. And then hiring an employee, that's like 10 times 100. And now we're moving on to the course, explaining what I did. And now we're at like 10 times 1,000.
10 times 1. Or
10,000 times 1.
10,000 times 1.
Whatever it is.
That's
I don't know. You guys are making this up. But you get what
it's
I
all
mean.
made up. No, exactly. And we, between us, because we're married, we have a lot of businesses that some of them are the crumbs, some of them are intermediary, and some of them are the bigger ones.
Yeah.
And what do you think, Dylan, about our combination of all things? We're not all in the big ones. We're in all of them.
Yeah, true. I mean, I would say it's I love the word harmony because you said that like in 3 years, hopefully they all work harmoniously, and that's what kind of what I think is like possible with that. And
Yeah.
that's what you guys are kind of doing. It's like, all right, yeah, you could be the realtor, I guess, is kind of the 10,000 by one. And then the
Investor.
title, yeah, I mean the investor
Sure,
is
sure.
50,000 by
Yeah.
half or
I
something.
can't with these numbers that you guys are
Yeah,
doing. I
we're-
cannot follow
yeah.
this.
But yeah, I mean I think then my question always is like, when are you spreading yourself, I guess, too thin? Is it ever a thing?
I mean, there's definitely been times in my career that I felt like I was spread too thin, but that always tells me that I'm missing something. I'm missing a system, I'm missing a person, I'm missing a process. Like, I like to systematize everything in my life. Like, I have a system for what lotion I put on my skin in the morning. Like, so I always feel like if I'm spread too thin, where can I put something into my life that will alleviate some of this pain? So recently I was like very overwhelmed because we're in like the height of next management season, like middle of the spring market, things were crazy. And I had one of my employees that was only working part-time and literally just saying to her, hey, do you want to work full-time? Changed my life. Like, and that was like such a simple thing, but acknowledging that there was a place that improvement could be made and leveraging other people and systems to help us all reach a common goal, like that made my employees' life easier, made my life easier. So I think just acknowledging that, I think any problem can be fixed with a person or a system.
There's a lot of commonalities between Next Management and Vessel Property Management,
Yes.
where those are our crumbs, right? You make small amounts per transaction, and those are not things that we focus on full time. We have employees. I have partners for my business. You don't, but there's other systems. So the crumbs are okay. So we're not spreading ourselves too thin because all that is in place, right? The employees, etc. So we could focus on title sales and flips or realtor sales.
Yeah, and I'm constantly thinking of ways that I can add additional like levers into my life to make all of my businesses operate better. Like today I was thinking like, oh, I wonder if I hired like a caller to call EXP agents in New Jersey and tell them about title sales. Like, I wonder what that would do for my business. Like, I'm thinking like all these things, and I might do that still. But, like I just think that there's always ways that you can leverage things and not do everything yourself. Like, if there's anything I've learned in the past 10 years in this career is that doing it yourself just slows you down. Like having people that you have in your corner and can give you feedback and better ideas and bounce things off of, like that is the way to succeed.
Yeah. Wow. This might be a out of nowhere kind of analogy, but what I'm thinking of is like you take the time to build like an oil rig, and this is you building the business of being Next Management or a realtor and then eventually the title as well. But you take the time to build this oil rig. It takes time, hard work. That's where like you gotta hit the hammer on your hand a couple of times, make those mistakes, but then you finish one, and then you hire someone to manage it. You move on to building another one.
Exactly.
And you just keep doing that over and over.
I'm gonna make a better analogy. Yeah, I bet you don't even know what Rocket Power is. The show.
No.
You know,
what was
Meg.
that in the 80s?
Jeez, he doesn't know
80s.
Next. He doesn't know
So, in
parental
Rocket
control,
Power,
Rocket Power.
I don't remember like specific episodes that many of them, but I do remember one where Uncle Tito, I think his name was, was fishing, and everyone else had a fishing rod and was like practicing their skills, and he was just like chilling on the beach. And at the last moment of the competition or whatever, he put down this huge net, and he collected the most fish because he took the time to build the net. So even though, you know when people say like, I just want to get 1% better every day, I'm like, no, I want to get 99% better on the last day because I want to make my systems have that large jump. 1% better every day, or in the fishing scenario, right? Getting small fish once in a while, that's a grind.
Yep.
And no grind for me.
I mean, yeah, like I'm
More
willing
smarter.
to grind for a bigger end
it's still a
result.
grind to have that 99%
like to build
jump.
that net.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you're putting in time, you're building this net, you're doing all these things, but at the end of the day, you get to just open up your net and you're not working as hard for each fish.
Yeah. I always had a problem with the 1% better every day.
Why? Just for that exact reason?
For that,
It's
yeah,
too much of a
exactly.
grind?
It's like inching up. It's
I think it depends in the context that you're using it. Like, I don't want to get 1% better at writing a contract every day. Like, that's not where my focus is. Although I want my employees to get 1% better every day at writing a contract, for example. Like, it depends on what your focus is. Like, for me, my focus is I want to get 1% better every day at like having better time management skills. Like, if I can get 1% better at that soft task.
Yeah, I agree.
soft skill or whatever.
I think it's a little limiting, which is why I don't like it. It's just like you said, it's more for an employee, right? If you work for yourself, then you need to get 99% better on day 99, right? And you need to build that system to make that large jump.
I think I agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind. I feel like it kind of goes along with like giving yourself your own raise too.
Yeah,
It's if you're working the fishing concept, or you're building the oil rig, which is still a better analogy. If you're building that, and you're going through it every single time, and the second that you finally move on, then you actually have the current thing that you're working on plus your backbone.
Yeah. Very, very average analogy, but yes.
I'm not a great fan of either of them, to be honest, but we'll let it slide.
I just love throwing in things that I know Dylan's too young for. Like we
Yeah.
talked about the BlackBerry on our past episode.
Oh, wow. BBM.
Yeah. Oh, BBM. I was saying SMS, and I was like, I know
No,
that's
no,
wrong. Thank you.
BBM. Yeah.
Shit. And I think we talked about on Rob's episode. We talked about something with the '90s, and Dylan had no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, what
It's
it's like
okay.
to be young, I guess, right?
Yeah. Back in the day.
Yeah, it's good times. But all right, well, I mean, I think this is pretty much we kind
Yeah,
of
we're wrapped
encapsulated
up,
everything.
Yeah.
But sweet, Meg, I appreciate you coming on.
So
Yeah.
Meg, real quick, give a just last overview of where we could find you and your businesses.
Yes. So on Instagram, I am Megan Handler NJ, and Next Management is nextmanagement.re. I'm not happy about that. My last account got hacked, so
So real estate.
yeah, .re for real estate. Yeah.
Jeez.
What else?
Hackers.
Is that it?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much everything that I do under the Megan Handler NJ account. But for, if you're really interested in cliche transaction coordinator post, yeah, nextmanagement.re. That's the only other place to find me.
Yeah.
Nice.
There we go. Awesome. Well, hope you guys enjoyed. Subscribe.
If you like it.